everyone. Thanks for stopping by the Time We Discuss studio. Today I'm speaking with Brian Freed, and it's time we discuss what it's like to be an inventor. Brian, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Inventions, no matter how you slice it, are one of the fundamental achievements that pushes us forward as a people. It could be something as simple and obvious as a wheel, or something theoretical and more complex, like a gravity generator. Now, whenever I'm speaking with someone in the morning and they ask me how I'm doing, invariably I like to say something like, I'm doing great, and the day is full of all kinds of possibilities. Now, Brian, for you, that could be quite literal. So tell us, what is a typical day like for you as an inventor?
I would say that I go through my day constantly thinking about what I'm doing, how things work, watching other people. I don't know if it's a good thing or a curse at this point, but I keep inventing naturally. And what's interesting, Dan, is you wake up in the morning, you have your alarm clock going off. There's different ways that you can have your alarm clock go off. Then you're in the bathroom, you got things going on there. Then you're in the kitchen and you're using different things in the kitchen. Then you're out driving, right? So I'm in the car, maybe there's people in public transportation, whatever, on the school bus. And there's just all things in your daily routine that you're doing. And that's what I do is as I'm going through my daily routines, you start to wonder like, okay, this is getting repetitive, but this takes me 2 steps to do. Can I do it in one? Can I make my life easier? Or am I just going to drive myself crazy? And once I do figure out if it's something that could be, is it only for me or is it for other people? And that's how I kind of figure out what my window of opportunity is before I keep on inventing with that particular idea.
So, Brian, it sounds like you're very naturally inquisitive. So, have you always been that way, going down that road, or did you have a single aha moment that kind of led you down this path? What was that like?
I used to kind of think about how things work quite a bit. I wasn't that great in science, but I think that just finding things interesting kept me going through my childhood. And then just starting to realize that maybe I don't have exactly enough patience for things. I start to watch and see things that I'm doing that kind of annoy me. And I want to be able to come up with a better way. And I think that's pretty much like anything that people do in life. There's a problem that you have or a challenge, and then there's a solution. So there's some people that say, I'll leave it for the next person. Or some people stop and say, you know what? I need to do something about it. And that's me.
So, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it since I'm a kid, but as I started to go through the different stages of my life where I got married, especially, I think when I was a bachelor, but when I got married, that's when I started to watch how my wife might have been able to do things a little bit differently in the kitchen and just watching some things. And then I had my daughter Alana, and I watched how the parenting things that we had to buy and do were sometimes a little too complicated for me and I wanted to simplify them. So I started to just every stage in your life, things that you do, things that I'm aware of, just experiences, I think, are really what kind of trigger that in my mind to see if it's something that already exists. Is it a big enough opportunity? And then at this point, being doing this over and over again for myself and other inventors for 18 plus years, like I kind of have a routine of how to vet and see if an idea makes sense to work on or not.
What was the first invention that you made that went through the process? You got patent for it and everything. Went to market. What was the very first one that you made, and what complication did it attempt to fix?
I came up with a bunch of ideas, I remember. I would say, Dan, that as I started to take it a little bit more seriously and say, I got all these ideas in my head. Why don't I just start jotting it down? So I started to jot them down. I made a spreadsheet. I put categories, and some of the categories were niche. Some of them were more mass market appeal. And I just started to narrow things down, but I always kept adding and then putting a line across it, strike through. But there's one right here. Where is it there? That one is, you can't really tell what it is. But when we used to go to like Madison Square Garden, I used to take my daughter, my wife, we went to Madison Square Garden and we watched like Elmo's World or, Princesses on Ice or whatever it was that we go to, you were kind of forced as a parent to buy a $12 Mylar balloon, and you tie it around the kid's wrist. And no matter how tight you tied it or loose, it would just fly on top of Madison Square Garden ceiling. And I started to realize that a lot of people were having the same thing. All their kids were bawling, crying, and the parents were like, oh, there goes 12 bucks, right? And you'd either buy another balloon or you just listen to everybody else's crying. So I came up with this nylon wristband that had a metal D ring, the letter D ring on the outside. So when you bought the balloon with the ribbon, you tie it on the D ring. So now when the kids want to take it on and off, you could take it on and off. If you're a parent, you want to put it on the stroller, you want to put it in on your waist, like on the belt buckle thing, you could do that. But if the kid let go of it, it also served as a weight so the balloon wouldn't fly away. So I started to sell a little bit of them. Not dramatic, not crazy, a lot of lessons learned, I would say. But yeah, that was one that I had fun with, and I got my daughter involved too. We did videos and all kinds of fun stuff.
What was the patent process like? So I'm generally familiar with the copyright process, but I don't know much about the patent process. What was that like?
A lot of people, when you're coming up with an idea, you get very excited, you get emotionally excited. It doesn't matter really what anyone says. This is what it is. And you feel like sometimes like, oh my goodness, I just came up with this great idea. I'm going to be a gazillionaire. And one of the most important things to do is to do a search, to do a patentability search, to see if your idea already exists. So what happens is a lot of people skip that step of doing the search, and they say, you know what? All right, I'll search. I'll go on page 1 of Google. Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, by the way, I had my eyes closed too when I was doing that, right? Or they go down the aisle of Walmart and they go, oh my gosh, it's not here. It doesn't exist. But doing a search gets you deeper into the archives of what's already out there to compare what you have to what's already existing. So I would say that it's really important to do that patent search and get a patentability opinion. So what you came up with compared to what's already existing in the patent office, and vetting that to see if it's something that you could call your own. And that's one of the biggest things, Dan. We could go through the patent process, but ultimately seeing if that idea that you have is yours is very, very important. And then there's the steps of kind of going through but first step 1, and then you want to try to create something that looks similar to what you're coming up with. So maybe making a prototype, and we can talk about that.
At present, are your daughter and wife, are they involved with your creative process at all? Do they have the same the same level of interest, or they just kind of like, I'll let you do your thing?
I guess at some point in your relationships, you really tell people like it is. There's no more like, hey, that's great, that's wonderful, I don't want to hurt your feelings. So when I come up with things, I do ask them, and they're brutally honest. Some people, if you ask your relatives and they say that it sucks, you're probably never going to talk to them again. So I'm kind of there's no turning back now. I do ask them for their opinion and advice, and it's nice. As my daughter is 22 now, graduating college, and when she was growing up, she had an inventor notebook, and we used to come up with all these ideas. Well, she came up with ideas also, just like her inventor daddy. And as she came up with his ideas, she wrote them in a notebook. And I was so proud of her. I said, Alana, if this idea is out there, even though you tried coming up with something, I'm going to buy it for you. Right. So she had this beautiful notebook and things that she came up with that was smart. And I would buy it for her, until one day she was like, Daddy, I came up with this great idea. It's called the iPad. I'm like, that's it. Game over. We're not playing this anymore.
Smart,
So,
smart.
well, she got me back because a lot of the toys that I bought her when she was growing up, I used to rip them apart so I can make prototypes. And one day she opened up the closet and found all these things that she was wondering where they went. So she got me back.
Whoops.
And she got an iPad anyway.
So when she graduates, are you going to get her a balloon and put one of those
The balloon bed? with a Elmo balloon. Yeah, maybe bring back some memories.
So how big is your current list of inventions that are ideas? You know, so yeah, like a spreadsheet, or how extensive is that list at the moment?
Well, I definitely wound it down over the 20 plus years personally that I've been inventing. So I have 15 issued patents. I have products that I've licensed, so I earn royalties from them. So I gave it to a company that's in the same industry. They manufacture it, they distribute it, and I earn a royalty from it. And some of them I actually manufacture myself, either locally or overseas. And I get to play Mr. Entrepreneur in that regard. So I'm up to 15. I've had a nice run. I have two other products that are coming out. I've had a chance to be on QVC as an on-air guest, demonstrating my own inventions for almost 3 years. And just this journey has been remarkable, and I still have plenty more in the can to go. So um, I'm definitely fueled. If you're talking about fuel in the can, like I'm helping other inventors to do what they're coming up with and working towards commercializing them. And that keeps me going too. So I'm working on theirs and kind of leaving mine behind, but I'm trying to balance it all out. But I could tell you, Dan, that there's a lot of people with great ideas out there, and you just have to be real and say, you know what? Is this something that is going to make me money? Am I going to put my time, effort, energy, and money into it? Money, time, energy, and effort, I should say, into it. And am I going to get a return? And a lot of times I help people to figure out that maybe they should just work on their next idea. And that's okay too, right? Because it's better than going in a big circle, spending all that money and just feeling not that great. So if you came up with an idea at some point, then you'll come up with another one, believe me.
I've talked to other creative people, and they typically have different projects that are in different stages. For you personally, or do you follow that same model where it's like you have this particular invention? It's it's been through the process already. It's ready for manufacturing, distribution. This one I'm getting ready to submit it to the patent office, and then this one I'm still trying to figure out how it all works. Do you have something like that, or is it once you have one, you're kind of committed to that one and seeing it all the way through?
It's interesting you say that because you brought back a memory for me. I had a great opportunity. I was at a trade show and I brought a bunch of prototypes and some of my inventions there, I guess at all different stages. And one of the buyers invited me to their office after the trade show. So I went there and I started to show all these different products at different stages. And one was like, I have this, it's a prototype. And the buyer said, I want this one. I'm like, what? I wasn't even going to show it to you. I want this one. So that was one of my biggest winners. So I think that just like anything else that you do in life, you have different tasks and responsibilities, and some you get done, and some are a few steps to getting done, and some are further away. I think different stages. So one might be in prototype stage, another one might be in patenting stage, another one might be where I'm knocking on doors, and another one I'm on Amazon working on ads. So I think that it keeps it interesting, and that's my own, but I'm doing this for other people too. So it's fun to kind of project manage or be a part of all these up and coming successes. And, some are challenging. It's not all, home runs. There's some singles out there, and some people do it to make a living and other people do it as residual income.
Now, you talked about helping other people. How did that process start? How did someone did, did you find someone that was working and you offered to help them, or did someone approach you? What was that like?
I started to go to a local inventor club, and people started to ask me questions. And I, because I had some level of success at that point of manufacturing, commercializing my ideas, and it started to be, what, people were calling me. And then I said, you know what, there's more people that need this information. So I created my own inventor club, and I started to host a radio show. I wanted to get the word out and just get interesting guests on to give great information. And then I authored three books, and I just kept going, Dan. I was like, you know what, I want to be able to keep giving information out, because there was a point where I had an invention, and I brought it to an attorney, and I just kind of got led on quite a bit, and that frustrated me, and I was annoyed that I ended up spending money on something that I didn't need to. But but there's a realistically, we hit a brick wall and we kept going. So, and along the way, people were trying to figure all these things out. So I kind of got really into it. And there was a point where it was like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and or in the morning. And my wife came to my office and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm helping somebody." That like, seriously, again, another night? Like, let's go. So I was like, maybe I have something here. I mean, I've had some things come out, and then I started to get more active, and people were like, "Wow, you got that person on your radio show, and you did this, and you got that." And so I think that was really the turning point to say, you know what, my time of saving people, well, my expertise as I listened to people's lessons learned, successes, interviewing high profile guests to kind of put all that together to mold me to be able to give other people the right information or the best shot, or helping them to make better decisions, I think is really the sweet spot for me.
That is so cool that not only you're creating tangible objects that help people, help the everyday person, but you're also giving out your expertise, or helping others with their own projects as well. That is so cool. Very, very admirable.
Thank you.
Um, so this is an interesting question I thought of while you were speaking. So back when I first started doing this show, one of my first guests was a self-published author, and she talked about writing the book, just every day writing a little bit. And once she got an editor on board, then it was like I'm actually like an author now. I have my own editor. I'm paying someone to edit my book, and that made me think of you. At what point did you look at yourself and say, I'm not just someone that like tinkering with stuff. I am actually an inventor. What was that like?
I would say that I I mean, when I started to see people, or people were buying what I was inventing, and we were using it for the same reason that I came up with it. Forget about the money and all that, royalties and all, like, that's great, but just the experience of somebody using it and demonstrating it, and watching them say, "Wow, this is really cool." Like, that was the turning point for me. I feel like that was something special, and I continue to do that today. Like, I'm proud when people are using my inventions. Like, for example, Dad, can I show you one?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So during COVID, I would treasure my paper towel rolls, right? It was hard to find anything out there, right? So I started to look, and this is a little exaggerated, but the top of my paper towel roll was pretty dirty. People, when their hands are wet or dirty, is when they put their hand on top of the paper towel roll and pull the sheet off, right? So I started to ask my friends and family, I'm like, "Can you take a picture of the top of your paper towel roll?" Like, "Oh my gosh, Brian, what are you up to now? Just do it. If I do something with it, I'll send it to you, or whatever. If I invent something." So it was disgusting. They would send me pictures of like wet, dried out things and dirty. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I see what you're doing here." So I ended up coming up with this I'll flip this over here so it looks like nice and fresh. I came up with this cap that goes into the inner tube of any paper towel roll. And now when your hands are wet or dirty, all you have to do is put it on top and pull the sheet off. And now your hands are, the top of your paper towel roll is clean and dry. I'm trying to do this with one hand on my knee, but it's really easy. Like, no matter any paper towel roll that goes on a stand goes through the inner tube, right? So this fits right into the inner tube. So paper towel topper came to life just like that. And
That's
and
so
it's selling, and it's gone viral a couple times. It's been fun, but something simple but practical, and I love reading the reviews on Amazon.
that's awesome. It's like you said, something so simple, and no one thought about how useful that could be. And Brian, honestly, not every time I use the paper. So in my house, my wife typically does the cooking. And when she cooks, I clean up. I have no problem with that. So more often than not, I'm the one doing the dishes. And invariably, at some point, either drying something or my hands or whatever, invariably I reach for a paper towel. And I always think about that. I've had that thought where
See?
it's like, you're putting your wet hand on the paper towel. Didn't necessarily think about like how dirty it was, but just like getting the paper towels wet. And here it is. That's something so simple and so nice. That's great.
Thank you. And here's another one. I mean, I have a bunch all over the place here, but one night I had leftovers and I came home and I wanted to put the bag in the fridge and there was no room. And I saw like all this space above the carton of eggs and I opened it up and there was one egg left in the carton. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So what did I do? I came up with a collapsible egg tray. So you put your eggs in, and as you take your eggs out, I'm doing this in the air, it goes back to only use the amount of space that you need for 2 eggs. So you know what I called it then? Extra space. So a collapsible egg tray. But look, people love this. It's novel and it's useful, right? And if you have 2 dozen eggs or a dozen and a half eggs, just put one next to it. But the hardest thing though, Dan, is having people try to find it on Amazon because you're not looking for a collapsible egg tray. So when you're looking for an egg tray, that's where I have to say, oh, here's another suggestion. So I got to pay for you to buy it. I'm doing okay. It's been in some major retail stores also, but I'm proud of these type of inventions. I have a fully issued utility patent on this extra space.
Right. I love it. I love it. I've said this before when speaking to someone else, but my eyes are actually watering from laughing. But I've said this to other people, when you're the one speaking, the camera's just on you. And then when I'm speaking, the camera's on me. And when you're talking about that, you have the luxury of seeing me. I'm like losing it over here. Just your demeanor and the candor is just wonderful as you're explaining the extra space. It's just, and the name. I love the name. I love puns. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
So if someone is looking to go down this road and become an inventor, how important are, like you said, you went to trade shows. How important are those? How important is finding like a local inventors club or something like that? What are some of these resources that exist that people would find to be very helpful?
I mentioned earlier, trade shows changed my life. If you're going to be an inventor, right? And a lot of people don't even call themselves like, I'm not an inventor. I came up with this great idea. Okay, well, you're going through the process of taking something from your brain and bringing it to life. You are considered an inventor, right? So when you're going through that stage, I think it's important to classify yourself as that. But yeah, trade shows, you're getting into the space of what it is that you're inventing. You could see all the activity that's going on in that industry. You could see the innovation that's happening within that industry. And you can find the players in the industry to see maybe why yours is different, or maybe to align with them for a licensing deal, or maybe you're going to be their competitor. You don't know. But as I've continued my journey, I've had the opportunity to found, I was running an inventor group in 2 counties on Long Island. I'm here in Long Island, New York. You take both those counties, you can make up the 14th largest state in the country. But I had 2 separate clubs going because they wanted inventions and ideas and businesses to sprout in each of the counties. So they wanted to take ownership of them. I ended up merging those 2 groups to the Long Island Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club, one of the largest clubs in the country, through the Small Business Development Center, part of the SBA. And then when COVID was going on, I was inviting all these people from all over the country to my feeds, to my live streams. I'm like, this is so silly. Why don't I just change the name to National Inventor Club? So I've been going strong with National Inventor Club. I have tens of thousands of people that watch the live stream, be a part of it, and just being a part of the community. I wanted people to have more in between these meetings that were once a month. So I created an app called the Inventor Smart Community. It's our very own social media. I launched it in October of 2023, and I currently have just about 1,000 subscribers in there right now. It's available on Google Play and Apple App Store. And now inventors can collaborate, communicate, network, share experiences. And these are the, like, I sit back and I watch the engagement going on, and it makes me feel amazing. Like, I'm there to help and support, but everybody's helping each other. And that's the most important thing. Like, what do you do? I came up with this great idea. Who do I go to? Who do I tell? Who can I trust? Right? Those are the things that people ask. So hopefully I'm able to answer those questions for them.
That's awesome. It kind of reminds me, web developers, that's kind of my world. So invariably things go back to either me as being like a child of the 90s or me working in the web. That's usually where I end up. But in the web, it's an open community. Everyone shares everything. If I'm having a problem with code, I can easily find people that are willing to help and so on and so forth. And it sounds like in this environment, even though they're inventing their own things and they could be competing with each other theoretically, they're still willing to help each other out. That is really, really cool.
It is. I think it's important. And look, there are some inventions that are very similar to what's already existing out there in the market, and you have to figure out, is it something that's a big enough difference? Is it something that you could call your own? Is it something that you're going to be able to put your time, money, energy, effort into, like I mentioned earlier, to get some kind of return back? So it's really, you gotta press it. And yeah, I mean, there are people that have ideas in the same industry. Most of the time they're not exactly the same, but they can share their experiences to help them keep moving their ideas forward.
Now, Brian, this is the part of the show where I like to ask the guest the surprise question. Has absolutely nothing to do with what you do for a living. So the surprise question I have for you for today, I want you to take a second and think about your family, your friends, and the American people in general. I want you to think about the things that we as a society become obsessed with, and the things where it seems like there's this thing that everyone likes. Maybe it's a song, a movie, a fashion trend. Maybe it's even one of your inventions. But I want you to think of one of those things that everyone likes except you. What would that be?
Oh, everyone likes except me. Um, Boy, I've learned to conform to, if somebody likes something, maybe there's something good there to to kind of feed into with them. I'm like, maybe he's right. Maybe it is something that could be. Um, I could say, just in my inventing world, Dan, that there's a lot of people sometimes that just get stuck and they kind of give up. And I kind of look at things from a different perspective and help them through it. And there's sometimes where it's no, and then there's times where, you know what, that makes sense. So it's not as bad as I think. I mean, there's some, I mean, that's kind of specific, I think, but it's happened a couple times. Like, oh my gosh, this is over. No, it's not. There's a way. And I think what makes me different is that, as a problem solution person, nothing is impossible. And if you have that mindset, sometimes it works out in your favor and sometimes it doesn't.
I love it. When many, many, many years ago, I heard a motivational speaker say this line, and he said, "When you think about something that's impossible, think to yourself, if it were possible, how would it be done?" And what you just said kind of reminds
I
me of that.
love that.
It puts a different spin on it and puts you in a different mindset to think creatively. Uh,
Totally.
so you have a lot of inventions. 15 for me, that is a lot of inventions. You have an app, you have these the social networking, the clubs. I'd like to give the person I'm speaking with the opportunity to talk about something that they believe in, a project they're working on, a cause. So Brian, I'd like to give you a few minutes. If there's something you'd like to discuss, the floor is yours.
I appreciate that. Well, I I'm dedicating a good amount of my time to get the word out for the inventors, the people who have had an idea in the past, or maybe you have an idea now, or maybe there's one that you'll have in the future, to know that there's resources that are available. So I've authored 3 books. My latest one is How to Make Money with Your Invention Idea. I have this Inventor Smart community app that you can go and join for free. There's premium subscriptions in there, but you're more than welcome to be free. I have the National Inventor Club that's free, and I have people from the US Patent and Trademark Office on, and high profile guests on there to be able to give you information. Even, you mentioned copyrights. I had the Copyright Office on my National Inventor Club, and they went through, the team there went through every single step of being able to file a copyright application on the website. But there's all other things. Like, for example, just being able to think about what you're coming up with. It doesn't have to be rocket science, although we do need that in this world. For me, I like simple ideas because you can come up with something like I have these things. These are tongues, right? People have tongues. And what I did was when I was putting the tongs away, you pull the lock to to close it up. But when you opened it, it was like psh. So what I did was I took the top of the tongs and I made grooves in it. So now when you open it, it's small, medium, and large opening. So Dan, if you're going to the store and there's two set of tongs there, and this one has adjustable tongues and they're both the same price, which one would you pick?
Obviously that one.
Ding, 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 right? And then also I would say, look, I'm all for, giving the lessons. Another quick lesson is that this is one of my products that were pretty successful. It's called pull ties. They're bag sealers. So I originally came up with this when I was trying to open up my bread bag with twist ties. The plastic tab would break on me, very frustrating. Then I started to realize that bag was open. My cereal bags were open. Plastic bags were open all over the place. So what I did was I came up with this pull tie. Now you take any plastic bag, cereal bag, freezer bag, you put it through the loop, you pull it up and it seals it tight. So maybe you like bread, maybe you don't like bread. But then I said, all right, Dan, how about in your kitchen in the pantry? You have your cereal bag open, you have other things open, you have club bags like the freezer frozen French fries that are left open. So at the end of the day, what made this really successful is I said, hi, everyone. How many people have a kitchen? Ding, 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 right? As opposed to how many people like bread. So I think when you're inventing, and that's the message that I really relate to people, is maybe your ideas for one thing, but what could be more that can make it a bigger window of opportunity? And maybe yours is correct, but it might be 3 or 4 on the list. But think about your biggest window of opportunity to make you money.
Brian, that's really, really great perspective, really great insight. Brian, it's been awesome having you on Time We Discuss and speaking to you and learning what it's like to be an inventor.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks for popping in the studio. My name is Dan, and this is Time We Discuss. I really enjoyed speaking with Brian today. I forgot to mention this during the show, but make sure you check the description for all kinds of links. If there's a profession that you want me to cover, add a comment, and I'll find that person for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That'll do it. See you next time on Time We Discuss.